So I wanted to jump back in and just kind of enlighten you a little bit on the next portion of this before we really dive into some of the screen recordings and you look at all the different examples. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you several different examples in these screen recordings that are here, right? First click, last click, time decay, linear, position-based, and data-driven, right? These are all attribution models that we're going to cover within the next screen recordings, and they're going to show you and be able to attribute back where your revenue is starting and it's ending, right? And there's a couple different things that I really need to kind of highlight within the differences of particular models, right? So Google and Facebook and then any of the other particular search networks and social networks, they all kind of a little bit slight different variants in how and what they're reporting for in their conversions, right? So all of the attribution is basically it's attributing the sales. So where does my revenue and where does my ad dollars actually drive the most? And that's what these reports are designed to give you, is highlight, if I spend money over here, it's ultimately going to return to this return, and this is how much revenue I'm creating off of that. And as we go into the different models, right? First click is basically, and we'll just use a very, very simple example, right? So if the first click, if we're doing off of that and we're running a multi-channel Google campaign where, hey, we've got display in there as our top of funnel, we've got YouTube in there or shopping as the middle to kind of help with the remarketing, and then you have your last basically touch point is going to be on Google search where they're converting at. In the last first click model, and if they originally visited your site through that banner ad by a click, then it's going to attribute every single bit of the conversion value or the conversion, I guess, performance to that first click within display. Okay, if we're looking at last click under that same scenario, then your last click would have happened on Google search and it's going to attribute the majority of the value to last click. The time decay model, it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's actually what I use with the majority of my clients, because what happens if they click on that banner ad, but then they interact with a YouTube video, but then they wait 2 or 3 months to actually re-interact or actually buy your product, and they go to Google, then it's going to give the most credit to the actual last click within the search. It's going to break up all of those particular touch points and assign, maybe we'll just use round numbers, right? 25% to the banner ad, 25% to YouTube, but because the most recent click happened on Google search, it's going to give 50% to the Google search impression, right? Where linear is a little bit more, it's actually, you can address and adjust the actual variation and assign credit to each one of those points as it flows through the actual funnel. The position-based is very, very similar as well, but it actually allows you to literally adjust the actual percentages. So if I want to put, hey, I'm going to assign 20 or 50% to the first click and 10% to the middle funnel aspect of it, and then the other 40% to the bottom, then I can actually adjust those parameters within the actual attribution model to assign those different. Now, one of the best ones that I really like, it's data-driven. Unfortunately, it's not available within Google Analytics, but I did want to go ahead and just kind of talk about the different attribution models, because if you've dived into the Google Ads account, you've dived into your tool belt that I've kind of showed you in the previous lessons, you might see the data-driven model in there. Data-driven is going to be really exclusively to Google Ads accounts, okay, because it's something where it takes all of the data within the account and it's going to assign more appropriately. It gets very, very granular as far as like, okay, if they interacted with an ad, they clicked on the ad, but the next ad, when they clicked on it, they actually went through 3 or 4 pages, and then the next, they clicked on the ad, but they bounced off the page really quickly, and then finally they converted on the last one, then it's going to assign the majority of the site to that last click representation, and the data-driven model is going to assign a majority of the click to the one where they actually spent the most time on the page. It's much more about how they engaged with the process, and rather than what position or whether or not it was first or last clicked or anything along those lines. Okay, the main reason why I'm telling you this is because this is one of the worst reports, I will tell you, when it comes to my clients getting confused. And the reason why I say that is because the problem with giving so many different options is none of them are on the same parameters, right? So any sort of consistency that you ever want to pick out or you ever want to judge is, if you're judging something based off of, let's say, first click model in February, then you better be judging it on first click model in March. Because even though the data and the performance and the interactions have changed, if you're changing what those engagement parameters or what you're actually judging that based off of, then you're never going to get inconsistency. And how do you know if you're actually growing? So the main point that I really want to make by completing this before we dive into the attribution models within the screen recordings is be consistent. Okay, if you're going to pick a model, figure out and which one is actually the best fitting for your business model and stick to it. Okay, because bouncing around is only going to give you inconsistency, and you can never grow and scale with inconsistency. And again, what I'm trying to produce is I'm trying to produce consistency for you. I'm trying to produce increased conversions at lower cost, which is going to increase ROI and put more money back in your pocket. And if we're not judging everything on a consistent basis as we go through this entire process, those three outcomes are always going to be all over the board, right? And we're not in a shotgun method. I'm trying to teach you the rifle method so you can hone in on what's effective, what's consistent, and what's repeatable. Because obviously if you can't repeat it, then it doesn't mean a damn thing. And ideally with Google Analytics, we're going to be able to go ahead and give you the parameters. We're going to be able to give you the reporting so you can get the complete picture of what's happening on your website, but it always needs to be consistent because we always have to make sure that we're judging by the same parameters as we did basically the previous month. So remain consistent within your goals, remain consistent within your consistency in the reporting that you're watching. And again, I'm assuring you that your conversions are going to increase, your costs are going to decrease, and you're always going to be able to put more money in your pocket.